sido más concretos sobre qué va a pasar, porque ellos solo hablan del festival y no nos dicen nada del dinero.
Ella dijo que va a poner el countdown y... ¿La pon? Boa tarde.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Economic Forum World Circular Economy Forum 2025. In this session, we are going to talk about perspectives on circular water from the global south. We will have experiences from Latin America and from Africa. So I am Beatriz Martins Carneiro. I am Regional Subprogram Coordinator for Finance and Economic Transformations at UNEP. I am based in Panama. And UNEP leads this LAC Circular Economy Coalition. So I also serve as coordinator for the LAC Circular Economy Coalition. And the coalition is a knowledge partner of the World Circular Economy Forum 2025. So it's a pleasure to moderate this timely conversation on perspectives of circular water from the global south. Today we will explore how circular economy principles can enhance sustainable water use and improve access across diverse contexts in the global south. Before we begin, we would like to share a short but very powerful video. Nature is speaking, and we have Penelope Cruz as water. This video reminds us just how much we take this virtual...
I am water. To humans, I am simply just there. I'm something they just take for granted. But there is only so much of me, and more of them every single day. I start as rain in the mountains, flow to the rivers and streams, and end up in the ocean. Then the cycle begins again. And it will take me 10,000 years to get back to the state I'm in now. But to humans, I'm just water, just there. Where will humans find me when there are billions more of them around? where will they find themselves? Will they wage wars over me, like they do over everything else? That's always an option. But it's not the only option.
So this is very impressive. This video reminds us just how much we take this vital resource for granted. Now I will call to the stage our colleague, Katharina Gehring from ASEAN, who will do a short interaction with you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session. I'm Katharina Gehring, the CEO of the African Circular Economy Network. ASEAN was founded in 2016, let me get this a go again. We were founded in 2016. We are represented in 42 African countries and have more than 500 circular economy experts in our networks, and we're really trying to drive the conversation around the just circular economy transition forward. So what I'm going to do now is just ask you to open up your World Circular Economy Forum app, because we're going to ask you to fill in a poll. And I think we can also go to the next slide, because the question is, what elements do you consider key for circular economy water management? So if you go onto the app, you have to go to the program section, or you can actually also scan in the QR code, maybe even easier. And then the question that you think is the most relevant, please type that one in. So yeah, we put quite a few options together there. So the one is investment in technology and innovations, such as nature-based solutions, community participation and local empowerment, cross-sector collaboration with agriculture, industry, or urban planning, education and capacity building, efficient financing mechanism and incentives, data and monitoring systems. So I can see that innovation is quite far up, efficiency in finance mechanisms as well, and community participation. And then I think the yellow one is cross-sector collaboration, because as we know, in a lot of the sectors that use most of the water is actually agriculture. At least that's the case in Africa. So I think from our side here, we can say that cross-sector collaboration is really key, which we see in our context. And I think it's very much the same in Latin America. You also have a very mining-heavy industry happening. Same in Africa, where a lot of water is being used. And then obviously, we also need to have innovations such as nature-based solutions that you can also actually apply in urban systems. Okay, I think, is anyone still filling in this question or survey? Everyone is happy. Then I can call on stage Chris White, one of our former directors at the African Circular Economy Network.
Boa tarde, good evening, good afternoon. So thank you very much for coming. I think what we're going to try and do is to look at seeing if we can get a general overview in terms of perspectives of circularity in the Global South. And if I could have the slides on the front here, it'd be quite useful too, so I don't have to look behind me. This is a huge, complex topic to try and get through in a few minutes. So this is going to be a very, very broad perspective in terms of what we're looking at with regards to circular water. But effectively, from a Global South perspective, in terms of Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa, we're looking at very much the same sort of issues. And it really is about saying, if you listen to the video, Penelope Cruz was saying, will you fight over me? And a lot of people say that the next world war would be over water. And that is potentially an option. But we need to look at ensuring that we look at water for peace. And if we look at the World Water Day in 2024, it was very much specific to that. Thank you, I have the slides here. But when we need to look at water as an enabler, there's a number of different components one needs to look at. I mean, globally, there are 3 billion people worldwide who depend on water sources that cross boundaries. And yet we have very few countries that look at interboundary cooperation in place. And that has a number of different issues in terms of geopolitics and other applications. But when we look at it in a broader picture, we have about 5.5 billion people that face water security, and about 1.3 billion of those are in Africa. That's 90% of the population of Africa. Water is a critical issue in Africa. We're the second driest continent, and we all know that the exacerbation of these issues through climate change is a massive problem in terms of moving forward. So circularity in water in terms of managing this resource is vitally important. If we look at it also from the perspective of how much Latin America has, it's looking at 1/3 of the global water, freshwater resources. And yet we still have about 30% of the urban population without access to drinking water. And again, this is all exacerbated and complicated by climate change. So we need to look at this resource in a number of different ways, and specifically from a circularity perspective is understanding whether or not we take this as a given, or how we look at this as an individual sector or a cross-cutting sector. And water is critically important across all of these different sectors. Unfortunately, what we do, and it doesn't matter whether you're anywhere in the global south or the global north, is that we pollute this vital resource. And we, whether through our own interventions, through sewage water, through runoff from industrial or agricultural applications, there's a number of issues we face. We're not looking after this scarce resource, and we need to understand how we can make that better. So we all know the linear model. So circularity is something we need to build into this. The linear model is very simple. We take abstraction from the natural flow of river, and we either look at storing that or putting that into distribution networks. So that gives us our withdrawal components, which we then use, either from a consumptive or a non-consumptive perspective. And effectively what happens is that from a non-consumptive, if you look in agriculture, mining, manufacturing, for example, we then have an outflow that comes through which is often polluted, and those are issues we need to resort or resolve. And then obviously we don't get much coming out of the consumptive component, but effectively we have a linear model. So it's the same as whether we're looking at manufacturing, the built environment, etc. We're trying to move away from the linear model and try and create this. This is really what we want to look at. We want to look at being able to have pristine rivers, have drinking water available. My major passion, as anybody who knows me, is fishing. So I want to make sure that my kids and my kids' kids have that opportunity to go fishing in pristine waters like I do. So we've got to preserve this opportunity. And we can do that through circular water models. So whether we're looking at that from a nature-based perspective or a human-based perspective, the opportunities are there. We actually know what to do. We know how to manage water. And through the projects and programs, for example, that we're working on with ASIN, and the next speaker in terms of the circular food systems, will go into some of those details on the Rwandan project, is how we try and look at engaging across those different spectrums. So many of you have seen multiple butterfly diagrams and everything else over the years. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but how do we look at opportunities in terms of the replenishment, recycling, avoiding, reducing? All of the terminology that we take into circularity comes into water as well. Whether you're looking at that as a direct sector, if you're immediately into that, if you're into aquaculture or other components, or whether or not this is a cross-cutting component, we need to look at all of those different issues and really just try and take that to a place where we are all making sure that we're not going to be fighting over this resource. That's it from me. I'm going to call up to stage Eric Ruzigamanzi, who's my main man from Rwanda, who's going to give you a few details on the circular food program for Rwanda.
Thank you very much, Chris. I was told that I have only 5 minutes. If I do one extra, you will bear with me. We will call it secular time. I'm Eric Ruzigamanzi. I work for WRI. WRI stands for World Resources Institute. collaborating with the African Circular Economy Network. And where is the other? Oh, the effect of time, huh? Yes, would like to briefly explain what this project is all about. This is a project that is translating a global ambition of circular economy for food into locally led outcomes at national level. We have different partners involved. This is funded by the IKEA Foundation and implemented by a consortium of partners led by WRI in partnership with the African Circular Economy Network, African Circular Economy Alliance, Cleaner Production and Climate Innovation Center, and Resonance. And all these partners are at the forefront of building circular economy at national, regional, and global levels. We've worked with these partners to identify, test, and scale circular practical solutions that promote sustainability and ensuring that we are driving solutions that are for the benefits of nature, people, and climate. And the program is centered around different sub-components where we have the support, the technical support to small and medium-sized enterprises. On this time around, I will focus on water, but we support them to integrate circular economy principles into their businesses and making sure that we are linking them to different opportunities through market linkages, access to finance, with another strong component around policy, enabling environment, where we have key ecosystem players in one room discussing the policy that is favorable for SMEs. This is a structure, and this is a structure. SN specifically supports us on technical assistance, supporting those SMEs that I've just mentioned. So, a bit of context. Rwanda is still trying to ensure agriculture is modernized. The agriculture is largely rain-fed, and this has really implication, or is affecting this particular sector in terms of climate change and seasonal shifts. To address this challenge, we are supporting these SMEs to include water or ensure water is circular, alongside many other support that we are providing these SMEs with. So the deep technical assistance is being provided to 20 SMEs, but we are also reaching more than 100 SMEs through our pipeline development. And what we've basically learned is how water is central to everything that we are trying to do. Supporting them to reduce costs, supporting them to treat water is really something that the entire team, the entire partners that I've just presented are focusing on. On circular water strategies in itself, this is coming in different forms, starting from supporting them on how to harvest rainwater, storage, and smart distribution of water. In the coffee sector and aquaponics, we are mainly focusing on wastewater management, ensuring that they are treating water, reusing it, and on horticulture, we are basically focusing on promoting regenerative farming practices. And I will use a few examples. I see the time is no longer on my side. two companies involved in the coffee sector. We have Kigasere and another company called Gisuma. And what we have noticed is that the traditional processing can use up to 20 liters of water per kilogram, generating wastewater full of organic matter. And if discharged untreated, it have obviously effect on soil and aquatic ecosystem. In aquaponics, where fish and plants grow in the same system, what we are doing is basically to introduce monitoring tools to ensure that water is being used efficiently, and we are supporting a company called Nordfree. In horticulture, it's quite a number of regenerative agriculture practices. All of these practices are helping to retain water. Water retention is very key in all the SMEs we are supporting on this. And we have quite a number of SMEs really involved in this or being supported to adopt regenerative agriculture. So what we are doing is really fantastic, with great achievements, and we want to make sure that we scale whatever interventions that have been very successful in Rwanda and beyond in East Africa. So we are looking for partners. For those interested, I'll be really glad to meet, share as we scale what is being successful with this particular project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Not one. Thank you very much, Mr. Eric Huzigamanzi. Thank you. Thank you very much. So for this keynote presentation demonstrating the importance of applying circular principles, especially in food systems and their link to water management. Thank you very much. So now I will call for case study number 2. Entonces ahora me complace presentarles al señor
Gary Pascal Cuccio, que é diretor de qualidade. Eu preciso pegar.
Gary, el señor Gary. Hola.
Olá. Hello. Be here in this forum on circular economy. We are making progress, and our goal is to move forward by including these very important topics into public policies. This is what we have been discussing, the principles of circular economy, and the idea is to continue to make progress. In the case of Peru, and especially with respect to development of circular economies, what we can say is that at the Ministry of the Environment, which I'm here representing, it has come to the top of our agenda. We have come a long way, and I'll be speaking about the housing and sanitation industries within the international regulation framework. These are our action plans for drinkable water and sanitation. We are aiming at 2030, and as you can see, time is of the essence. We want to incorporate policies, plans, programs as part of these projects, considering the need to provide accessible, drinkable water and sanitation, sustainability, quality, and the inclusion of circular economic principles is of the utmost importance. We have this plan in place that has strategic goals which have a great impact on how this industry is managed. For example, governance, policies, and internal regulations of circular economies to protect our water resources. We want to be as inclusive as possible. Also very important is the promotion of culture, the consumption and good practices of circular economy. We also want to promote the market. We have very essential goals because we want to increase the budget so that we can invest more in the circular economy. We want to invest 20% of our budget in circular economies. An important aspect is that 15% of the biosolids that are produced are going to be deposited on the land, in the soil. Next slide. The planning around circular economy made it possible for Peru to engage in important initiatives in the areas of sanitation, building, and access to water. Here, for example, we set up a committee on drinkable water and sanitation as part of this greater effort, a national effort at that. So here you have a coalition. It's called the Coalition of Circular Economies. And this is where we set up a dedicated commission to discuss water and sanitation more specifically. Another important step that we have taken is that we are developing an implementation plan that we want to see implemented by 2030. Within the context of circular economy, what we need to make sure is that we include all the players involved. This is our planning program. We have certain stepping stones, some landmarks that hopefully will translate into progress in the areas of sanitation, drinkable water, and housing. It also contemplates the incorporation of an investment assessment geared towards public structures. In other words, the reuse of residual waters or wastewater in the cities. They are reused by farms, etc., by rural communities. Furthermore, we are developing digital tools. For example, it's a mobile app that allows us to learn about the contingencies of the national sanitation program. It's called SIGAS, that's the name of the platform, and it has been very helpful in, let's say, getting ourselves organized around management, housing management, and sanitation management plans. all the members of society have to be able to understand what are the intervention goals which go far beyond environmental impacts and mitigation strategies. When the time comes to make these projects operational, according to this management plan, we are setting up efficient plans so that the main players, regionally speaking, have access to technical guidelines, let's say, that will assist them in setting up an efficient waste treatment facility. As part of this management plan, it is also important to highlight this very emblematic case. It's located in Arequipa, in the south of Peru. This is where we had a very interesting experience where the public sector and the private sector came together to work towards the building or management of a water treatment facility. And EPS of Arequipa and this company invested in the building of this facility to serve the city of Arequipa, thereby reducing the contamination of the Chining River, which crosses the city. This investment is worth $500 million. That's the cost of this project. And to make it operational, well, it's the operation of this new facility is under the leadership of a private company. 95% of the contaminants will be eliminated, and then the water is returned to the river. Out of all this treated water, 1.8 cubic meters will return to the river, of which 5.8 would be reused by the mining company. So that, in a way, let's say they were successful in forecast to manage the facility more efficiently. This is a case that illustrates how efficient and successful the public sector and the private sector can be if they form partnerships, if they work together. We know that the idea is to reduce impact and use resources more efficiently.
Thank you very much for sharing this example of alliances between the public and private sector, and also specific targets that were met. I would like to invite now the members of the panel.
Experts panelists to join me on stage. Dr. Henry Roman from International Water Management Institute, South Africa. La señora Raquel Bernardín, gerente de Aguas Andinas, Biolia, Chile. El señor Fernando Pinzón Jamírez, director de Fundación Hidrosfera Colombia. So each of them brings a valuable regional perspective on the intersection of water and circularity. Okay, I have to come here now. Before we begin with this interesting conversation, I would like to bring forward one critical idea for us to reflect upon. So nature's contribution to people, including on water regulation, food, climate stability, and cultural values, are deteriorating globally. And this is especially concerning for the Global South. Over 85% of wetlands have been lost, and land degradation affects nearly 23% of global terrestrial areas, undermining food security and water quality. Crucially, the benefits and burdens from nature's decline are not evenly distributed. The most vulnerable communities are often those who depend most directly on ecosystems, and the ones that are also the least equipped to absorb the impacts. So this makes circular economy for water a matter of justice, equity, and long-term resilience. So having this in mind, let's now dive into the discussion. Dr. Henry Roman, so why is cross-border collaboration essential for circular water management, and what successful examples can we learn from?
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to be here and share what we know down south of the planet, being in the southern part of Africa. So I'll start by just providing a bit of a concept. Looking at reuse of water downstream from or upstream, depending on how you want to do it, but within the same sector or cross sectors, and that's been mentioned already. I mean, in the poll, it came out quite clearly that cross-sectoral collaboration is important. And looking at agricultural water productivity, which is what EMI looks at, in terms of integrated water resource management, and that then speaks to ecosystem services as well. So deteriorating ecologies are contributing to poor water quality, but also quantity. We sometimes forget about the quantity aspect. If you have a wetland and it's badly degraded, a wetland's a sponge, but it also is an agent to clean water. So you reduce your water quality and quantity by destroying the landscape. You've also, what we have done in southern Africa, we have what we call transboundary water commissions. So we've got Arosacom, Limcom, Okacom, Inmacom. All these commissions are basin-wide. The interesting thing is it's not one or two countries, it's up to 6 countries in places that have an agreement by which they operate the basin. So they manage and conserve and sustain the river basin itself. So they have the task to provide member states, your governments, with intelligence to manage the basin. And that intelligence they provide is science-based. So they look at things like siltation, climate change, water quality, sedimentation. And then those recommendations go to governments to produce actions collaboratively and with each other. So this has been, I think it's more than 3 or 4 decades that we've had these agreements in some instances in place in the region, and it goes beyond just how you treat the basin. It's also how do you use water for economic gain. So there are cross-border aquaponics projects in play between South Africa, Eswatini, and South Africa and Lesotho, for example. So those are the successes, but it's challenging. Multilateral agreements are very hard to maintain, and bilaterals tend to work better, but in our instance, the basins are not shared by 2 countries alone. They're shared by, like I said, sometimes up to 6 countries. So water diplomacy is critical if we want to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ahora vamos de una perspectiva entre países.
Now we are going to discuss a different perspective. Mrs. Raquel Bernardin. Water is everywhere, involves circularity in a transversal focus. How can we strengthen the cooperation between different sectors like agriculture and urban cities? Thank you very much for the invitation. I believe that what the colleague from Peru mentioned, it's important the participation of the government of the state in order to ensure sustainability of the use of water. In Chile, we have a good plan, sanitation plan more than 25 years ago to treat the used water in different industries. And we applied circularity, not just of water, but also waste. So we have to have good quality water for agriculture, not anymore. Wastewater is not used anymore in agriculture. We also have to have water available for the mining industry. And so, and we use the rights of water to produce drinking water, and our byproducts, the sludge that is removed, we are we have 0% waste. All the biofertilizers are produced, and this allowed farmers to reduce the cost in producing foods.
Entonces eso es fundamental.
And this is crucial. And the third product is biogas, which was burned in the past and is currently used in the cities, producing natural gas. 10,000 people that live close to the biofactories, and also power for the industries. We also have the industries involved. We talked about mining. We talked about the development of the cities, agriculture, and also industries, manufacturing sector. In the plans, we also acted to prevent contamination of water, delivering quality water for irrigation projects, and we also use the byproducts of the industry, of the food, agricultural industry, processing. We use the byproducts, different types of residues that are used to produce biogas and biodigesters, generating power. So when we plan together with all the players involved, it's possible to have a circular economy of the water and of the residues. Thank you very much. And now, after this comment, the transnational perspective, we are now going to listen to a different experience. Fernando Pinzon.
The circular economy focuses on regenerating nature. What do you think, or how can a circular economy contribute to this end? First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for the invitation. To answer your question, have to speak about the cycle of water first. Those who work with circular economy have to acknowledge the importance of water and its importance in every sector. and industry. There's nothing more circular in water, in nature than water, than the cycle of water. So much so that the nutrients cycle also depend on water. So water is more of a vector. Water is actually far more than simply a vector in our processes. When we think of regenerative processes, these are solutions that we have to keep in mind that we're dealing with life. Water is life. So to the extent that we can protect the short cycles of water, because no matter what activity we're in, or no matter how we use the soil, everything affects the cycle of water. If we're building a road, for example, that will interrupt the flow of water. We have to understand the environment around that particular road and consider how to regenerate the nature that's there. So let's mimic what nature already does by itself and do it ourselves. Thank you.
We go for the second round of questions. But before we move into the second round, I would like to flag also that it's important to recognize that many practical barriers are not purely technological, right? As you mentioned, that we need to understand how nature functions. But environmental degradation is often reinforced by economic and policy incentives that prioritize short-term gains over sustainability. And fragmented governance, we see this in many countries, lack of cross-sector coordination, and silo decision-making are major obstacles. So transformative change requires aligning water, food, health, and climate policies, while ensuring inclusive governance and local communities' participation. Only then can circular approaches truly deliver their full benefits. So now let's go to our panelists who will share their views on what is blocking progress on the ground and what practical levers exist to overcome these challenges. So Dr. Henry, what are the biggest barriers to adopting technologies like acid mine drainage treatment, for example, in Africa, and how can they be overcome?
Thank you. To start with, one of the major barriers is funding. As we know, in the developing world, funding is always critical. But more than funding is sustainability of funding beyond projects. What we tend to end up with are multiple projects and pilots, etc., that don't move beyond pilots. And that's because when the funding is done to do the pilot, there's no funding to implement. So that is one barrier that we need to think of. And that also talks to cooperative governance, because when you're looking at water technology, that's under the Department of Water. The business falls under the Department of Industry. They still need to be financed. So you see that now you need to start making linkages to figure out how are we going to get this thing to work. So that's the one. The other is always be aware of the vendors bringing you obsolete technologies. It happens a lot. So you end up with a technology that maybe have 2 more years of life, then the manufacturer is upgrading or changing to something else, and then you can't find parts. And now you've got this thing that costs you a fortune that you cannot fix. So technology transfer has to go beyond just having a technical expert on your project until the project ends. There has to be technical transfer so that your people can actually utilize and fix and maintain and operate. That's on the one side. On acid mine drainage, that's an interesting one, because in South Africa, as a mining country, we're facing this dilemma. So when mines are done mining, you've got all these holes in the ground that start filling up with rainwater. and they slowly fill up with rainwater. It's not going to happen in 10 years, it's maybe 20, 30 years. And then they start decanting. And they'll decant for 100 years. Now bear in mind, the mine has stopped working for already 30 years. Whose responsibility is it to treat that water? It ends up being the responsibility of the government, who doesn't have the funds to treat the volumes that are actually coming out. So, because bear in mind, I said you're going to treat it for 100 years. That was the subject of my PhD, so it's something close to my heart as well. And it varies depending on the geology you find yourself in. So it may not be the same type of water, so you have to adapt your technology option to what is coming out of the mine. And over the 100-year time span, what is coming out of the mine is going to change in chemistry, which means you also have to adapt your tech on that mine over the period of time as well. So at IMI, what we put in place is what we call innovation bundles. So we work in agricultural water. So we take the technology, we add a microfinancier to it, and we work with a smallholder farmer and government, because you need to enable the condition under which all of this must operate. So we try and create the ecosystem in which the technology can be uptaken by a farmer. And we found it to work in about 6 countries. We're rolling it up. We're now working on scaling that across more countries because it does work. But like I said, it takes time, it's effort, because you have to create an ecosystem. It's not just about the black box. It's about everything around that black box that actually makes it function. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, it's very important to invest on technology transfer and also scale up the proven results that we have already in those pilots. Bueno, Raquel, América Latina y el Caribe cuenta con cerca del 29%.
A significant portion of water resources, according to data of the Inter-American Development Bank. Many countries struggle with that. According to your experience, what are the main challenges to manage water effectively, and how can we implement concrete approaches to face these challenges? In Chile, one of the countries of South America that is going through a hydric crisis, water crisis, we had 15 years in a row of drought, significant drought. We were not able to provide water to our citizens to meet their needs. So whenever we have a crisis, it's important to have a general vision of what is happening. We have a strategic plan for the next 15 years, BioCity, many ideas of circular economy, reuse of water, treating used waters, direct and indirect treatment. We have also nature-based solutions, education, and also we are sharing all this knowledge with the society. We share information, we educate the society how to treat the water. Another important aspect is that we should never try to reinvent the wheel. We have to implement proven solutions that have been proven in other countries. So in this sense, the private and public partnership is crucial for this synergy. The state will plan and the private enterprise will help in the implementation, like the Losada plant in Peru. And this can help us to overcome the challenges of drought, the issue of the cost and good planning, In Chile, our water costs $1.1 per cubic meter, one of the lowest in South America, and 100% of the used water is treated. Whenever you just watch the cost, is not enough. We have to advance with a good management. Another issue is the regulatory framework. Solid residue, solid waste very often reaches the waterways. And we have to have advocates working together with the government, establishing how can we treat the used water to replenish the aquifer. We are losing a lot of water. We can store water in these moments of crisis, and also the indirect use. We have to advance in these points to be able to get the circular water economy. In Santiago, we already we have a 30% shortage. We have this water with the cooperation of the users that save water. However, we have to advance. Barcelona is an example, implemented many steps in order to save water and to promote a circular management. It's difficult, it's an effort. Reuse the water, it has to be circular. We have to reintroduce the water in the system. It's a circular resource by nature. So, Fernando, considering your experience with the communities, how can we empower communities and local governments to implement circular economy of water? As to the communities, it's a matter of education. Education related to different concepts. How can we relate to water? People have to be able to to know that when they flush their toilet, this is good quality water that is drinkable water that we are wasting. They have to be aware of that. And as to governments and authorities, the focus should be slightly different, because the decision makers are usually professionals, engineers, and they don't know the concepts of circular economy. And very often issues like urban drainage systems that can be sustainable, nature-based solutions. This type of concept is not being promoted by the academia. Professionals are not being trained, are not acquiring the skills. So they will face the reality offering outdated solutions. And very often, solutions that are centralized and linear. The problem is that they concentrate all the problems at just one point, and this generates and creates a focus and is prone to corruption. So the management by the public sector is prone. So aqueducts could be, we might think it's the solution, or a water treatment plant, but we have to consider the operational cost, the impact, and we are still maintaining a linear approach of water use. So we want to recycle nutrients, recycle the water. However, we still have applied the concept of linear use of water. We collect the water in one point, we use, and we just waste the water. So the the government should change the idea and incorporate criteria of circular economy and water management to all the 3 R's, not just recycling or reuse. All the concept of circular economy should be applied here. And this is the invitation I make to all the authorities. Thank you very much.
So today we've seen how circular approaches to water are grounded in collaboration, innovation, and community empowerment. I would like to thank very much the partnership we had with ASEN, Katarina and Chris, also Aindara from UNEP, for all the support that made possible for us to have this session today. And thank you very much for our speakers and panelists. Thank you. So, no. Still on.